This conversation is going to be fire. I have had some great conversations with Farrah. The questions and flow for today. Go grab your journals if you have not grabbed it. Grab a couple of pens because you may very well run out of ink today. There are so many resources these ladies are going to share with you, and they are leading from the heart on these topics that they are going to talk about today. So everything that you are going to hear comes from this beautiful, genuine, divinely appointed place. For those of you who are wondering, what is it that I signed up for? I remember I thought it was really interesting. Let me remind you why you're here. So today's topic is steps to achieving diversity. Diversity involves every level of leadership in an organization, and we have seen that time and time again, right? Diversity contributes to the development of an organization with fresh perspectives that help drive innovations of products, methods, and systems. And diversity doesn't mean only one type or one layer of diversity. We are going to talk about it all. We're going to talk about diversity. We're going to talk about equity. We're going to talk about inclusion and all of those luscious layers that are involved in that. Farrah, Michelle, Sam, and Hilda are here today to talk about the importance of diversity and how every single one of you can achieve it in your organization, in your world, in your community, because we know that's why you're here today. You want to make things right. So they are also going to share some key learnings on how to overcome any resistance to diversity initiatives that you're working to implement. So welcome everyone. Farrah, I am going to turn it over to you to introduce yourself and have these amazing leaders introduce themselves. I will be back at the end. Oh, real quick, before I go, as you know, if you've been here for any of these sessions in the past, the Q&A will be at the end of the session. So make sure that if there is something that is just burning a hole in your journal, that you write that down, highlight it. At the end, we will go over all of the questions that you put in the chat. For now, the leaders who are leading the conversation are going to be focused internally in on their conversation. So again, drop your Q&As in the chat. I'll gather those and come back at the end. All right, everyone, have a great chat. I'll see you in a bit.
Thank you so much, Deborah. Well, as you guys may know, or I'll introduce myself, I'm Farrah Wilder. I am newly staffed at the California Association of Realtors. I'm the Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer. So it's a mouthful. And I'm really thrilled to be here with my Woman Up family, my friends, my support system for many years, even before I was staffed. And, diversity is just a topic that's been near and dear to my heart. It's an honor to get to do this work full time. It's not just a job. It's a passion of mine. And diversity hasn't changed, but the world has changed. And it's a really special time to be working in the diversity arena. But diversity has always been critical. It's always been important. And those of us who have been working on diversity issues and working on inclusivity issues are finding ourselves less marginalized. Maybe we're speaking more directly now. We're feeling like the world more and more is joining us in this fight. So it's extremely exciting. And I'm absolutely honored to be joined by these brilliant leaders. They're leaders in every way, not just diversity, but including diversity. They're diverse. They work in different parts of our industry. As we all know, real estate has many different facets. And so people here, the panelists are representing different parts of our industry. And yet they have managed, and they believe in diversity so much that they manage to do all of the work that they do, and they still put it right up front. So joining me in helping to host the discussion and ask questions of our panelists is the incomparable, the fabulous Michelle Mills Clement. I was going to introduce everyone, but I'm going to have everyone just say a few words, and we can start with Michelle about what you do and, why is diversity so important, such a passion for you?
Sure. Thank you, guys. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
I have had the worst technical difficulties, computer just completely crashed seconds before. That's the year we're all in. So thank goodness for iPads and being able to pivot. I know that's our theme word for the year too. Michelle Mills Clement. I'm the CEO of the Chicago Association of Realtors with Sam over here, one of our great members. Really excited to be on this panel. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is something that I've been passionate about my whole life, mostly because of scenarios that I've been in myself or my family has been in themselves. And I find myself in a position where I can actually make some changes to some of those discrepancies and discrimination of practices that have happened before. And so really wanting to maximize the opportunity that I have and recognize that what I do is not just for me, but for other people. So thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for agreeing to join us. I'm just thrilled, and I know that we're gonna be wonderful co-hosts together. So since you mentioned Sam from Chicago as well, Sam, can you tell our audience a little bit about who you are and the importance of diversity to you?
Yes, so my name is Sam Powell, short for Samantha Powell, but only call me that if I'm in trouble or I cuss or something. I'm out of Chicago, Illinois with Michelle. Beautifully spoken, by the way. That was what a wonderful start of the conversation, just learning a little bit more about you, the world learning a little bit more about you. I've been a realtor since 2002, and for me, like Michelle can't hide the color of her skin. I can hide whether I'm gay or transsexual or whatever. I happen to also be a tatted kid, but for me, it's all just about being your authentic version of yourself that you're comfortable being at that moment in time, and letting you be the magnet that attracts everything that's meant to come your way. So I think it's, finding internal confidence and then being able to show that to the world in a meaningful way daily, and then having a special tribe to go back to if you need a soundboard or a refresher course on how awesome you are if you find resistance along the path.
Thank you so much, Sam, and can't wait to find out more about all of your work that you've done in diversity. So now, last but definitely not least, and I've had the pleasure of serving on a panel with Hilda Ramirez. She is absolutely fierce, and I can't wait for us to hear from her. So Hilda, can you introduce yourself to the group and say just a little bit about the importance of diversity to you?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Hilda Ramirez. I'm based out of the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, and I reside in San Jose, California. I am a native of my community, so I've been very, very active in the space of diversity and inclusion for many years. When I first entered the real estate industry, gosh, I think it was back in 1987. I'm really aging myself here. I noticed that there was a huge void in terms of leadership and opportunities. And so I immediately became active in as many groups that I could possibly find that would allow people or promote the growth and personal and professional development of people of color. It was something that I grew very passionate about, and I surrounded myself with like-minded individuals who were willing to work with me to create solutions that would address that opportunity. And so I am one of the co-founders of an organization called NORA, which is the National Hispanic Organization of Real Estate Associates, and very proud to have worked to put a program together that really did help elevate real estate professionals who are willing to embrace leadership opportunities by giving them a platform to acquire the training and build the skills and grow to serve not only in leadership opportunities through business, but also in the context of community. So I'm very proud of that accomplishment and very proud of the position I hold today. I am the team leader and CEO for Keller Williams Silicon City, and we have a very wonderful, diverse group of agents. And I take great pride in that. And I hope that I can share some wisdom on how others can develop those skills so they can be more inclusive and more just in their real estate business by creating those opportunities and then leveraging those communities to actually do more business. I just can't understand why anybody wouldn't want to serve a greater community.
Thank you
True.
so much, Hilda. And with all of your years of experience in real estate and in weaving diversity through all, of your various roles, I'm sure that, and maybe we'll have to have another discussion on this, but we'll have so much to learn from you as well.
I'm
So
humbled to be here.
thank you so much. So we're gonna get started with our first question. This is for Michelle. So Michelle, it seems like you've been everywhere, and that's, you're new, you're a little new to some folks, but I know that you are not new to real estate. You're not new to the space of diversity. I know that you've had your diversity committee at Chicago for some years now. But you are the CEO of a local association. So can we chat about, how you came to bringing diversity into the association? How did that become important, or when did you get started, and how did you get that started?
Yeah, people say right place, right time, right person. And I really believe that was me. I started at CAR in April of the month of the 50th anniversary of fair housing, and not really recognizing what that meant at the time. Just, this is day one of work. But quickly I learned, as the first African-American CEO of the Chicago Association of Realtors at that time in 135 years, it was significant. It was also significant because, as some of you may know, CAR actually predates the National Association of Realtors. And with that predate comes us predating some discriminatory practices beforehand. So we played a pretty pivotal role in how Chicago's segregated city was set. And being born and raised in Chicago, I knew that I was a product of that. There was definitely a side of town that I lived on, and there was a side of town we went to school in, and diversity wasn't where we lived. And so when I was moving back to Chicago, I was away for 5 years in Seattle. I was the CEO of the Chicago Commercial Brokers Association. So when I came back, with my husband and son, one of the things we talked about was, great, we go back to segregation in a sarcastic way, when we had just gotten used to, at least I did, being out of it in Seattle. And I talk about moving to Seattle and being so uncomfortable not living in a segregated neighborhood because I wasn't accustomed to that. I didn't know that's how the rest of the world lived. So when I got here, it was really just about bringing my own experience that I, quite frankly, took for granted at times. I remember trying to rent a townhouse in a neighborhood in Chicago that I wasn't as familiar with, and we kind of wanted to date the neighborhood when we first got back. And our realtor, who was from the South Side of Chicago, African-American woman, went and said, I have a client, they're qualified, blah, 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 was looking at renting your property. And the first thing they talked about was, we're not taking Section 8. Are they Section 8 clients? And so on and so forth. And it was something that we took as, let's just move on to the next one, tell her who I am, and let's move on. But when I mentioned that to the staff team, they were so appalled. And I realized how desensitized I was to it, because it happened all the time. Like, we actually expected it to happen. And so that's when I think I realized this is more about me, and it's something that we have to start talking about day one here.
That's a great point, Michelle. We just finished reading the book Cast, and we're going to talk about that. And I realized that, for people of color, some of these things happen, throughout our lives that we just kind of take it for granted. And yet for our associations, and the work that we're doing, it can be really important to maybe start with acknowledging the history, so that we can then really, really make, a concerted and educated effort at addressing the history. And you wrote that powerful article that I saw Deborah post that just was brilliant and amazing. And so we really appreciate all of your brave and clear words, on the topic. So it's been wonderful.
Thank you. Farrah, actually, can I pose a question back to you?
You sure can.
Okay. Yeah, so you're actually new in your role, and I know that this is a new position. We got to meet on a panel a month or so ago, and you were I think it was your first week. Can you tell us, and I think this would be really valuable for everybody, just some of the innovative things that you're doing at California Association of Realtors, because I think you guys are really setting the bar as well.
So, I cannot take credit for all of the things that CAR is doing right now, because of course they had to be in the works before me. But I'm thrilled to be at an organization that is so committed to fair housing and diversity. And, they, even before the unfortunate events, of the spring and summer with George Floyd, and even longer back, CAR has been working, in the areas of fair housing and diversity. And CAR's task force, committed to, or their strategic planning committee, committed to putting additional resources, into making sure that CAR was as diverse as possible, and going to be able to bring all the voices to the table that need to be there, that really should be there, that should have been there, the whole entire time, to make sure that every issue that's in fact affecting our California communities are, fully vetted, and that those communities are represented. So, what to that end, I have helped CAR, my team has helped, Lizette Torres being a big part of that, and Sarah Sudachan. Our team has helped support the creation and the work of a task force. And I remember, Michelle, you mentioned, having task forces, and the core standards is now, I felt we created our task force before the core standards, but recommendation, but we have a task force, and that task force is considering diversity initiatives. And the task force's work is, gonna take a little while, but in the meantime, there is low hanging fruit. And I keep telling folks, there's a time that we're in, that people want more information about these topics. They want to learn about these topics, and there are things that all organizations can do, whether it's a brokerage, whether it's a local association, that CAR is doing to get started. So one of the first things is surveying, your members, finding out, what's your representation of from different communities. So we have started to do that process. We did a leadership survey, and we know NER has a tool that, can tell us our demographics, and that will help us get our benchmarks together. We also have rolled out this year the Latinx Professionals Network, and we're really showing our communities that we see them. We recognize their contributions to our communities. So the Latinx Professionals Network featured our Latinx, I'm trying to think of what they call our champions, and featured our leaders. And also we're doing implicit bias training. We started with our leaders, and we're also thinking about ways to roll that out to more of our members. We've been doing more forums and educational programs, and I have to give a shout out. I see my Deliberately Fair Housing crew is here. We are in partnership with Deliberately Fair Housing, rolling out programming, and we're really, doing our best to hold spaces for the stories. So, folks are interested in learning, wanting to hear more, wanting to understand the issues and understand the experiences of these various communities. So we're doing our best to bring more content and programming around fair housing and diversity, and so many other things. But those are some of the big things.
Super. Awesome.
And so, I have a question. My next question is for Hilda. So Hilda, you manage a very diverse office. You mentioned that it's 100% minority owned, and that it's really important to the owners that it remains so. And the realtors that you manage, your realtor staff or realtors, are also very diverse. And we know, and Keller Williams has rolled out some changes, to their mission statement, that Keller Williams really highly values diversity and is doing quite a bit in the space of diversity. Can you share some advice for brokerages looking to diversify their agents and their leadership?
Sure, absolutely. I do believe that we have a responsibility, number one, to be very inclusive, and it's just simply smart business. But there are many ways that one can prepare to increase their cultural awareness and sensitivity so that they can be a better support to those who seek careers in real estate. It would be very unfair to bring people into your brokerage and give them an impression that a culture is there and that doesn't exist. And I think that it will make your relationship with your agents more fluid and long lasting. So I would first start by connecting with some of the affiliated groups. There are so many affiliated groups, and if you're not tapped in, you're missing out on so many wonderful stories of success and achievement and business opportunities. So go out there and connect with, ARIA, Korea. There's the Chinese American Association, the Asian American Association, the Hispanic and Latino groups and associations. There's Filipino associations. There's even African American associations. There are subgroups for just about every ethnicity out there. And so, start with a couple that are, perhaps the most dominant in terms of market share in the communities and areas you serve, and get to know about their backgrounds, their cultures. There's so many activities that you can use or create in your offices to create networking opportunities, to leverage for more business opportunities. Simply by having agents who can speak more than one language. It's nothing but a benefit. So, look at the census tract in your area, go to Pew Research and find out what the numbers are really like in your areas and in the areas you serve. You are probably leaving a lot of business on the table if you're not being inclusive of the people of color. And there's so many products out there that the big banks are creating to level the field when it comes to homeownership. I know in our area, the median home price is now escalated to 1.4 million, and affordability becomes a huge issue. So we need to be aware. We need to advocate for more programs that are going to allow us to focus on increasing the rate of homeownership for all of these wonderful ethnicities and the cultures. The lesson in culture alone is wonderful. I'm telling you, your life is going to be far more superior when you learn about people's backgrounds, what moves them, what motivates them, what inspires them. The value of family in these cultures is extremely high. So again, people will work with those they like, know, and trust. And you're just missing out on incredible opportunities if you're not leveraging these communities of color to increase opportunities. And they're as hardworking as anyone else. If not, I think their work ethic sometimes exceeds those of others. And it's just an incredible experience to work with these individuals. I'm very, very proud of the group that we have in our office.
I think that's great advice, Hilda. It's going to be a benefit all the way around, and tap your multicultural real estate trade groups to see if you can find diverse agents who, are interested in working in your offices. I think that's wonderful, wonderful advice. So next we're going to start with Sam, but I'd love to hear from all of our panelists on this question. As women of color and members of the LGBTQ community, some of us in an industry that still has a ways to go with respect to diversity and fair housing, some folks may be nervous about sharing different perspectives, or they might not feel as comfortable in spaces where they feel like they're the only one or they feel different. And yet your business is true to your identity as a member of the LGBTQ plus community, and you and your team work with a diverse clientele. Do you have any advice for anyone who feels unsure about how to show up as a member of an underrepresented group?
Well, I think, it's a personal awakening, I think, happens first, right? And I love that we're seeing sort of this cultural awakening, these conversations that some of us have been having our entire careers, and some of these more relevant conversations for right now in the time that is now. I encourage everyone to, first look at how they're showing up, right? Do a self-evaluation for where am I, what am I doing, how am I showing up, and am I comfortable in that version of myself, in the layer that I'm walking in wearing? I was, a fake version of myself for a very long time, trying to fit in and trying to fit a mold and trying to dress a certain way. And I'd get feedback and comments about how I could be more professional, et cetera, et cetera. And so I found this crazy period where I would wear business suits and I was the most uncomfortable human being. I was the worst version of myself. I had no confidence. I had no courage. And it really was a striking reference to me to realize that I wasn't being true to a version of myself. And so why would I expect anyone to be open to coming into a space with me and trusting me? I didn't even trust myself to show up as myself. So that was a lesson learned at a decent time in my career. And I just completely got rid of all of that clothing and started wearing whatever the heck I wanted that made me comfortable. I always say it's not the fabric that we choose to wear. And it's also not what you're hiring me for. You're hiring me for what's up here. And the only way we're going to have an opportunity for engagement is if I have the courage to be a part of engagement, or I have the courage to respond to someone choosing to engage with me. So I would encourage people, this is a trick that has worked for me through my career and through fear, is if I walk into a room and I feel some kind of way, I have to remind myself that I'm making myself feel that some kind of way. Unless somebody has said something to me that I'm now feeling it, I walk into a room, I feel some kind of way. I have this 30-second challenge for myself, which is go and engage with someone for 30 seconds, win the right to have another 30-second conversation with that person. Just go and start some dialogue, ask a question. And that has helped me immensely in walking into a room and feeling brave and feeling that I can come with courage and I can come with a long sleeve shirt and the sleeves rolled up, and that it's okay to have tattoos and it's okay to have a personality. It's okay to be smart, sexy, beautiful. Some of you are. I'll take the smart part. And allow people to get to know you. Open the door and let people know you. And Hilda hit it right on the head. Getting involved in those other trade organizations are NAGLA-REP, NAR-REP, ARIA, talk about cultural immersion. Get out there and get engaged and involved in the other cultures that make up our planet, that make up your community, that make up the industry that you're in. Just get out there and shake it up. Be a part of the conversation and don't be afraid to have the hard conversations, meaning if I'm in a room and I hear something said and it doesn't appear to bother someone, I might ask if they were bothered by it because, not unlike Michelle being used to that behavioral pattern and someone else having to be a reflector for her to say, hey, something doesn't seem right unless it seems right to you, is having more of that open dialogue, I think is really important. One of the things that I'd love to share is the company that I'm with, Dreamtown Realty. Since I've been with the organization, I didn't join the organization for these reasons. I knew I was going to be welcomed and embraced and accepted because I had met the owner. What I have found since being a part of the Dreamtown Realty here in Chicago is we now have a gay, lesbian organization within our company, right? So we have a niche marketing to our gay lesbian community, a pipeline for feeds to come in, and a way for us to sit around and talk to each other about what we're experiencing in our environment. And we now also have a diversity group as well. So handpick people from top down where they get in a room. I'm not a part of it, and I love that it exists. Get in a room and start to have conversations about what are we doing well with regard to culture within our own company. Because I'll say we have a beautiful culture, but not everyone is happy in that culture. So I think having a space to get together and have some of those conversations is really crucial and important to keeping that culture alive and strengthening it.
You just gave so many great tips there, Sam. And, what I'm taking from this too is that, we don't come to full solutions in an echo chamber, and as important as it is for so many of us to be authentic, how healthy spiritually that can feel. It's also critical, for the organizations that we're in that, they hear from our different perspectives. So, I think you just shared a number of gems. And so I'm really glad it's being recorded because if folks missed it, they might want to catch the replay. So Hilda, any advice for people who feel unsure about how to show up when they're different?
I really appreciate and love what Sam said. And part of it does, we have to accept responsibility for also, right? We have to have a degree of confidence and competency when we want to engage with other people, regardless of, their background. For instance, in the gay community, I think it's brilliant that their brokerage is going out and identifying opportunities, business opportunities, and then working with their team to answer the challenge. That is fantastic. When I think there's a real bad perception that if you are Latino or Latina, Hispanic, that you need to only, network with those, with that group of individuals in that ethnicity. I love to cross-pollinate with everyone. I think it adds to a fuller life and greater opportunities. And so I would encourage, if anybody has a, rainbow chamber in their community, that, take a visit, ask, solid questions. Say, I want to learn more about your community and how I can possibly serve you. Or again, just create another channel of opportunities for both parties. We shouldn't be resistant because we don't know everything about a particular, subgroup. We should do a little bit of studying before, of course. We want to, we want to be a better listener up front and then ask questions once we have an opportunity to take in some of what we learn perhaps in our first visit. But go out and look around your community and seek the opportunities and rise to the occasion. And I think you'll just going to have a better business model, a better culture. And sometimes you have to, we're very focused on the culture of our office, and we recruit to the culture. It's very important for us to have, to be a team that all plays as one and supports one another, regardless of, their background or ethnicity. So, or any type of preference. So we really focus on that. And if there's someone who is not, we highlight our diversity in all of our appointments. And so if there's someone who would feel awkward with that, then obviously we wouldn't be a good match. But fortunately, we're in the melting pot of the USA. And so people are seeking those opportunities. And again, very, very proud of the stance that Keller Williams took during these really unfortunate times with all the social unrest. Unfortunately, that division existed long before the pandemic, but certainly the pandemic has created a greater awareness because we're divided when we should be far more united. I think we would be able to minimize the spread if we could focus on that. So I'm very hopeful for what the future brings. And I hate the way that this subject had to, increase in awareness because it was very painful for many people. But sometimes that's what it takes, to have these changes. So I'm very, very grateful for the sacrifices that some have made so that we can have a better tomorrow.
Hilda, I think you stated it so beautifully, how beautiful and rich our friendships and our environments, our organizations are with diversity, how much we can learn, how many great experiences we can have when we have all of these different beautiful, folks at the table. So now we go to Michelle. So Michelle has been a supporter of folks bringing their authentic self to the table of the diversity, and has also herself, been, very, very fearless, about, sharing different perspectives, maybe a potentially unpopular perspective, and that we so much appreciate. So any advice for folks who are presenting a different opinion or who are diverse themselves, who are unsure about how to show up in these spaces?
Yeah, I would say definitely be confident in who you are, and Sam talked about that, just wanting to be comfortable in her own skin and be comfortable in how she dressed or whatever that is. That's vital before you can really enter any space. It's not always comfortable. I'll say that. I mean, being multiple times the only one in the room, that can be uncomfortable. I've been doing that since, school, but you learn to make it work. You're constantly aware that you're the only one there. I'm always aware. And it's something that, you have to get comfortable with that. A lot of times people may say, if you're the only one in the room, you don't want to sign up for the diversity committee, or you don't want to automatically be assumed that you're going to lead the committee or you have the answers. And a lot of times people turn to you and say, well, what do you think? What do you think? And I've just gotten to a point where there were times I didn't want to answer that question because I didn't want to speak for all racially diverse people or all women. But as I spoke earlier, when you move into certain positions, sometimes there are responsibilities that fall on you at certain times. And for me, personally, I feel that is a responsibility. I have access to rooms where I can share my voice. I can share opinions that might not be popular, but I'm going to share them because I'm thinking of the people that don't make it into their room and don't make it to that table. So when it's troubling for you, or when it may be hard, if you're the only one at your brokerage or your association leadership or at that board table, and you don't want that spotlight on you, or as I say, the target on your back, think about the people that can't get in that room. And you may get that target, you may get pushed out, but you've opened that door up so that if you're the only one, you're not the last one. And I think that's where you have to have that mindset and be ready to do that. For people that aren't minority or aren't in an underrepresented community, sometimes I think empathy will take you a long way. And I really encourage people to study the concept of empathy and just think about, how does someone else feel? How is this going to impact someone else? How does it feel to be the only one in a room? How does that feel to consciously be aware of the color of your skin or your sexuality or your gender, and think about that from another perspective? And I think that opens your eyes to what others might want in your brokerages when you're doing your marketing materials. Does it represent the communities you serve? Does it represent the communities you want to serve? And those are the little things that I think empathy brings to the table. I kind of want to flip the question back. Farrah and I talked about this, throwing questions back and forth. And I'm just curious, like Hilda or Sam, just how the empathy concept might have played a role in how you run your businesses.
Sam, do you want to go? You want to take this first?
I'm happy to, but you have the mic, so feel free if you've got words on the tip of your tongue.
Okay, well, empathy, I think, is an important virtue to have, regardless of who you're working with, right? I mean, we should have a sensitivity for another human, and in my opinion, that should be equal, across the board, no matter who you are. And I think that is what has helped me drive my ambition when it comes to equity and inclusion, because I have for many decades been the only Hispanic at the table, and traditionally in past decades, the only woman at the table. So for me, this, having this conversation and sharing our opinions and just our stories today is very important, not only in terms of elevating the underserved communities, but also as women and part of the Women Up initiative. So we've gone through all of these challenges before, just in different variations. And so we can't lose sight of that. We have made progress. Women are now taking on some of the biggest roles in the United States of America, which makes me incredibly proud. Yes, yes. And so that should show us that we have plenty of opportunities. It's just a matter of standing up, being the voice for the voiceless, and making a commitment to say, I am going to be a part of the solution, and enough is enough. So I'm very excited. I'm incredibly thankful to the California Association of Realtors to find, and finding such a qualified, member of their staff, and bringing on Farrah to really elevate and be focused on solutions. And it's in their best interest, because if you look at the demographics in California alone, we are the future, and we want a seat at the table, and we want to work in the best interest of all our industry associates and colleagues. So very, very excited about what the future holds for each and every one of us. And thank you to everybody who's joined the call today and wants to, be a part of that solution as well.
The layer I'd love to add is, in looking at our history, like our history and humanity is, I feel like we've seen us take steps forwards and we've seen us take many steps backwards, it feels like, in recent times. And I feel like now it's time to take a leap. Like we have to cover significantly more ground faster now. And if there was one muscle that everyone in humanity should be working on right now, empathy is that muscle. I think it is the magic sauce in a way where we are all unique individuals. And so being able to empathize with another person is where the work needs to be done, I think, in some of our conversations, and allowing for people to be in conversation and just shut up and listen and shut up and empathize. I feel like we want to cover so much ground and add a layer to the conversation. And if we could just take a little more pause, I feel like there's a lot more personal development that can be had by listening to the stories and conversations of others. So yeah, that's a powerful word, empathy. Let's all work on that.
Amen.
That's super real, Sam. And it's in empathy, kind of can go in a lot of different directions, right? I mean, I think for some of us who, have been experiencing a feeling that we haven't been at the table, or we haven't, we feel like sometimes we suffer from, mistreatment or unfair treatment. It can be hard to be empathetic, with folks. Sometimes we're just like, or someone says, uses the wrong term or something, and it's just like, and I think, but, when someone is truly making an effort, and, when we know our organizations, truly have a goal of, wanting to be better, I think that there can be a role, there is the role of empathy for those of us who, are kind of, can become impatient at times, because we are in those underrepresented groups. But then their empathy can be a tool. I definitely think that, particularly, in such a divided country, and in some of our communities that feel so divided, when we start to see, all of our futures, our success within anyone who's different, that if there are people missing from the room, that we look around and we go, that is a problem. That problem is my problem. That, the fact that this organization isn't diverse enough is all of our issues, that I see those folks as myself too. That's a level of empathy. And then your allies out there, can start to feel like, yes, I understand that this is a problem for this community. I care, and I'm going to be committed, to doing something about it because they have empathy. And so empathy plays a role on so many levels. And Michelle, I'm so glad that you brought up that topic. I've heard Hilda, tell me this story, and I heard her say it on the panel, and it's just so powerful and instructional. She shared a story about, efforts to diversify leadership, within her local association. And when we're talking about diversity, we're talking about diversity at all levels. We're not just talking about having, the one person who, represents, a person of color or the LGBTQ community or the disabled community at the table. We're talking about all the way up through the ranks of leadership, and leadership development. So can you speak more to your work to foster diverse leadership in organized real estate?
Sure. We've heard it a million times, and it just dawned on me that, I had exceptional mentors. I'm very grateful for that. They always told me, if you want to change the face of leadership, you have to change the face of the nominating committee at times in order to accomplish that. So after a lot of thought, and I set out to do that. And I went out a little bit on a limb because, again, I was going to definitely be rattling the cage a bit, to say the least. But when you have individuals who are qualified, capable, willing to share and contribute their time, because leadership is expensive. It requires a lot of time, and you forfeit, time with your family, your business. So if you have those individuals who are passionate and want to lead, I'm a huge proponent of letting them and allowing them and welcoming them to the table and pushing them up and supporting them, in whatever fashion is necessary. So at our trade association, we had not had a 100% or a son or daughter of an immigrant at the presidency in over 125 years. It might have been 122, something of that nature, but it was well over 120. And I felt that based on the membership base that it should happen. And we had, again, a capable candidate who was willing to run. So I knew for a fact that if we did not rally the troops and, change the face of that nominating committee, that the chance was maybe a little slimmer. So I went to work and I went out and I rallied as many of the top producing members of the association that had been dedicated servants for decades. And I said, I need you to serve on the nominating committee. And I thought everybody was going to jump to the, rise to the occasion and jump at the opportunity. And then of course, those difficult conversations, well, how much time is it going to take? Who's our candidate, and that kind of thing. But, we worked through all those issues. I really spoke with a lot of passion and also, again, we had an outstanding candidate and they knew that he was more than qualified and passionate about the opportunity and wanted to lead. So that's what we did. And we were very, very fortunate to have a great success, and then followed by his leadership as president-elect and then president of our association. And he just did an incredible job. And I believe now he continues to serve, as a board of director for CAR. So could not be more proud of that experience. And it just showed me a lot that, number one, follow the advice of your mentors, and then put in the work, and the outcome will be there. So I just challenge everybody to go out and find that one person, or perhaps two or three, because I think we should always replace ourselves with someone else that also of color, and bring them along in the journey. If they're willing to commit, then it's our job to push them up and make sure that they can reach and attain their goal as well. So very, very proud.
So inspiring, Hilda. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I comment on that?
Sure, please.
I was going to say one of the things that resonated from that story for me is the strategy that came behind making sure this person, could get elected and had the support to do so. And also how you were working as an ally and recruiting additional members to serve on the committee. And I've heard from a lot of local associations that say, I have somebody that I think would serve, but they'll never get on the board, or they'll never get them in the room. And this kind of even can go back to brokerages, where I have somebody that would be great at this firm, but they don't sell in that part of town. It's really about sometimes that strategy. Like, do you have people that can be advocates for you in a room, speak up for you in a room, and have your back and support you? But there's strategy that goes around that. It doesn't just happen overnight where you say, we want to diversify our board, we have some candidates, and try to roll them in. We all know how realtors work. We know how this organization works. There's a lot of behind the scenes that happens, and we don't need to be naive to think it doesn't. So the way Hilda went and navigated those conversations and went out, that's an ally. And that's something that I think everyone has the potential to do. If you see somebody worthy of leadership, or not just worthy, but the potential around leadership, how do you build them up? How do you prepare them so that even if they do get that seat, they're successful? Because there's this whole thing called microaggressions and unconscious bias that may follow them. And that can be hard too. So I think that is an excellent point. And one of the things I've also heard a lot about is wanting to diversify teams, real estate teams, making sure that you've got people of color, different orientations, different genders on teams to really, bring in a diverse aspect. And sometimes this can go back to what's the strategy behind that? What is, the play behind it? And it's okay to build that. It's okay to think through how you're going to make it work, because the most important part is making sure that it's sustainable. And so I just wanted to, sorry to jump in, but Hilda, you were hitting it on the head. This is how it worked. And I don't want people to think it's just an overnight thing. Like, she really went in and put that to action.
And it took years because, again, grooming the candidate for the opportunity took years, but he had proven himself, time and time again. And the great thing is he did come out from NORA. He came out from our group where he had been a local chapter president. Then he went on to serve on the school board as a board of trustee. So he had the skills, the knowledge, and was willing to put in the time at the executive level to, ascend to president. So that helped. And he did have the support of, his constituency. And, but I had to go beyond that. I could not just rely on the vote of, 3 or 4 people and the persuasion, regardless of how influential they were. So I went and I lobbied, the full board of directors, because the board of directors has to approve and appoint the nominating committee. So, you have to work both ends towards the middle. But the most important thing is to have a candidate that's qualified to rise to the occasion. So I think we have an amazing local trade association. They are very inclusive, and they see the value of reaching out to all people and making sure that their leadership really addresses the general membership. And I think that's what's led to their increased success. So it's a smart, business decision to make, I believe.
Thank you so much, Hilda. I would
Wow,
have to
wow,
agree.
wow.
I see Deborah back. So I'm going to keep talking, but I see Deborah back.
I know. I get to be the timer of it all. However, as we were talking about all of these topics when we were in the green room before we went live, we are going to have this topic in every single one of our wisdom series in 2021. So we will continue this conversation in Q1. Those of you who are so incredibly passionate about the support inside the chat, thank you so much for being here. We did have one question that came through specifically for the 4 of you. So it's from Myrna Garcia. She asks, what, if anything, can I do or can we do to get rid of traces of when redlining is occurring in CC&Rs? It's a brutal reminder of an ugly part of our history. So is there a process that one of you can share that, to help Myrna and anyone else who might be seeing this in the CC&Rs?
I can take that, and I don't know if Michelle has something to add too. But the California Association of Realtors, definitely, is committed to working, to get rid of these CC&Rs, or to at least, mask them with a statement, that there was some terrible language that existed, racist language that once existed in the CC&Rs. So, we definitely did vote on that at our last board of directors. There are local associations and title companies. I think the Orange County has taken it upon themselves to, at the close of escrow through the transaction as a point of sale, to remove or mask these statements. And also, we're definitely looking into right now, going to our state legislature and having a law that will require that these things be removed. So, it's definitely in the works. There is concern about the expense of it, in the process of how that happens with title companies, but there are some communities that are proactively doing that. And I see Lisa in the comments, she's giving more information about what the amazing work, that Orange County is taking the leadership on.
That's so great. Well, I think that what I'm hearing from what you're saying, Farrah, is that reach out to the county recorder, reach out to your local association and ask the question. because each one probably knows exactly the person you need to discuss it with.
Well, what I will say, and this is what where it comes back to, is organized real estate is powerful. So there's power in a group, and sometimes you're out there doing your work and you see an issue and you're like, I wish it was different, or I don't like that. And you might find that when you go to your NAREP or your Realtist group or your CAR or your Women's Council, that this is something that's absolutely on their agenda. And if it's not, you can bring it to them and harness the power of that group. And so the incredible thing is that these realtor associations some of these are bigger problems. Some of them will require, a change in the law. And so you have these very powerful, engaged groups, committed folks, who are looking for ways to address these issues, and they're working on it and they're doing it, and definitely participating in that fight, going to Ledge Day at CAR and being one of those voices, sharing your stories on the ground, saying how that impacts your clients within this movement, can be very powerful. So, I know I work for the association, but before I worked for the association, I definitely was a believer in the power of these groups.
I love that. Well, as we get ready to step back out into the world as allies, or I was listening to, I love listening to Austin Channing Brown's voice. And so after I listened to I'm Still Here, I listened to every podcast I could gobble up where she was being interviewed. And she actually talked about this next level called the co-conspirator. So we can all be allies, but I believe this community is filled with the co-conspirators. Those people who are really stepping up, their curiosity is turning into collaboration. And I think that is something that we are all so grateful to the four of you today for coming and sharing your stories and sharing your wisdom and making us more confident as we all step into the rooms and sit down at the tables where we are currently assigned, and making sure that we're looking to the left and looking to the right and making sure that diversity is in that space. So as we close up, I always love to get a final word of wisdom from each one of our guest voices. So let's start with you, Hilda. What is one piece of advice you have for everyone who's here listening?
I would encourage each person to go to their 2021 business plan and plug in a dues amount for one of the multicultural groups that they would like to join for 2021. Add it as a commitment to yourself, to your business, to grow your network, to grow your net worth, to do what's right and just. So if start with one. Dig deep, don't just pay your membership, actually, attend meetings, join a committee, really take a role of engagement that's going to provide value for your membership dues. Oftentimes people throw money and they think that that's the solution, but your time is worth far more than your dues dollars. So please contribute some time, and I know that you'll be better for it in the long run.
Wow. Excellent advice. Michelle, how about you?
I love that, Hilda. That's awesome. I would say, how to do it. The Power Mentorship, as more people come into the industry, especially people from underrepresented communities, there is a barrier, and being honest about that, being empathetic about that barrier, and using your privilege and your influence to help mentor and sponsor. And sponsor being when you really can push them forward and give them the tools. There are generations of wealth that have been denied to realtors without having access to become realtors. And so ways to make that up, I think, provide whatever advice you can and take someone under your wing. Someone's new in the industry and you get that phone call and they want some advice. Don't give them one-time advice. Make the commitment to really try to help.
Love it.
Love that. Fantastic. For those of you who are looking for a mentor and don't have one yet and aren't actually sure what that is or how to start that, the Woman Up community actually has a mentorship program. And if you go to the Facebook group, there's actually a tab that says mentorship. So if you click that, you can scroll through the amazing women in leadership who have walked the path before you. If you want to be a mentor and you're not sure how to find a mentee, that's how to do it inside this community. So I'll drop a link in as Ms. Sam is giving her wisdom.
I would say I'd like to piggyback on both of the previous comments. One is join organizations that you aren't a part of now, and know that all of these organizations, you are welcomed, right? So you don't have to be gay to be part of the NAGLREP, National Association of Gay Lesbian Realtors. Allies are more than welcome. We want it to be community, but we want us to feel accepted in that community with you joining us. And I feel like this pandemic that we kind of have begun to more isolate. Like I feel like we're a little bit on little islands. And I'd really like to challenge us to, especially as we're growing in leadership and our future leadership and the future growth of our organizations and our country, is people need to hear from you, right? So if you see something in someone, say something and say it to them. So see something, say something, but use it here differently. You know, walk up to someone that you admire, like a Michelle, and share with her how empowering her journey is and how it affects you as a, you know, a realtor in the industry, and how honored I am to get to serve with her as our leader. Letting people hear that kind of stuff. And then secondary to that is making the ask. Like, I see something in you. I'd love to see, and this is what was done to me. Someone saw something big in me and I never believed them. It took some doing. It took mentorship. It took training. It took life business coaching. Is find the future leaders, be intentional about it, talk to them, encourage them, help them build their confidence so that they're not feeling weakened like we might have been along our journey.
Beautiful. And thank you for that reminder that we're all welcome at all of these tables. And, you know, one of the beautiful layers that Sarah and Leslie and I have worked so hard to make sure is woven into everything that we do is to remind the women who come into this community that this is the place for them to gather their confidence, to learn how to speak their truth, to learn how to strengthen their own voice so that when they go out there, they are joining other tables. And so for those of you who have been part of the Woman Up community for the last few years and are roaring in your truth at this point, the invitation that Sam just shouted out is for you. Like, get out there, get to those tables and bring someone along with you, right? Someone who might not have that confidence that you've gained so far. That is so beautiful. I do see a question that that came through that if anybody has a place where they go to find the diversity, the different layers of diversity organizations that they can join. I don't know if there's actually a central place, but I know that we can certainly start a string on the Facebook group to share all those links. So we'll do that. And then of course, catch what's in the chat. All right. Our fearless leader, Farrah, what wisdom will you leave us with today?
Oh my gosh. So I could say so much. I just really appreciate the Women Up community and all the inspiration and support that that you guys provide to everyone, and definitely leaders in diversity, leaders in helping folks, you know, really find their authentic voice and feeling courageous enough to just bring their entire self to any space that they're in. So thank you for that. I will say that NAR has lists of the multicultural real estate groups, as does Sierra's website. Our website can be, you know, sometimes we're working on it, a little wonky, but we do have lists of the multicultural groups there as well. What I'd love to leave with the group, we did not speak a whole bunch about inclusivity, but diversity, I think you gotta, it's like the other side of diversity is inclusivity. If you have folks coming in the door, you want them to stay. And you also want to make sure that, you know, the benefits of having all of these communities represented, are really, really felt by making sure that those voices are elevated. So one thing that I've heard, organizations say when they're looking for leaders is, folks are trying to recreate themselves. They're looking for a culture fit. And I want us to think about getting away from that. That is not necessarily the thinking that will lead you to find your diversity. You might find folks with different skin colors or who check different boxes, but you're not going to elevate the voices, and that elevation can be uncomfortable for the folks who are there. Folks who are different might say some things that are different. They might propose changes. They may see the world differently. But aren't we really trying to make sure that our organizations are as powerful and effective as they possibly can be? So that involves everyone willing to get a little bit uncomfortable. And Michelle and I talked yesterday about the role that every single person can play. So, there's the gems that Sam shared about, checking yourself and making sure that you're not, it can feel like a little intimidating, but just sticking with it. But then there's also things that, the leaders can do, and the folks who are maybe in the majority in a particular community can do, to also be in this fight of diversity with everyone. And it needs to come from the top down. So the leadership needs to signal, yes, this is an inclusive community. We want you here, and we want you to say what you're going to say, not what we want you to say. So, I really, really am thrilled that we had this discussion. I can't wait to have this discussion with all of these wonderful folks on this panel that I've learned so much from. And I think we're doing amazing things together. And I just really appreciate Woman Up, Deborah, Sarah, Leslie, for inviting us on here.
Absolutely. Well, as we close out, we're going to have everyone share their contact information in the chat. Of course, as all of you know who have attended the Woman Up Wisdom sessions so far, we will also be sending out the replay to everyone who registered that will also have that contact information. So make sure that you get connected with Sam and Farrah and Michelle and Hilda and keep the conversation going. Of course, we'd love to see you share your tips and resources and all those things over on the Facebook group so that everyone can be part of that conversation together. Thank you so much, ladies, for sharing time with us. Thank you for pouring into this community. I do encourage you, before you click off, to take a peek at the chat. I'll make sure to capture it for you if you don't have time, but there's so much love for you, so much appreciation and gratitude for you all sharing these intimate stories, these experiences and this advice that you have learned, many of you the hard way, right? And so we're all coming together, we're all linking arms in a physically distanced manner, and we're here with you. And we are so, so grateful for you. Thank you, everyone who joined us today live. For those of you who are watching the replay, reach out to these ladies and continue the conversation with them. As I said earlier, we will definitely be hosting part 2 in Q1 of this conversation, but you don't have to wait for that to keep the conversation going between now and then. So to all of you, we wish you an amazing holiday season, amazing rest of 2020. And wow, that's really right around the corner. So until we see you next week for our conversation around building wealth and really stepping into investing in the investing side of real estate, take good care. We'll see you soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.